Well, I had a request to review agency and real estate listings, well, contracts or agreements. So that's what we're doing today. We're starting out with agency, which there's a lot to know. We're going to do 21 questions. So let's get started. This is the book, as usual, Texas Real Estate License Exam. However, it includes a national portion, which is good for all 50 states. And you can purchase this on Amazon. All right. So let's start with agency. 4.1. The agency relationship is defined by A, the Realtor Code of Ethics, B, the laws of agency, or in some states by statute, C, the law of real estate contracts, or D, the agreement between a principal and an agent. So what is an agency relationship? A, B, C, or D? The agency relationship, how is it defined? Anyone? The answer here is 4.1, B as in boy. The laws of agency, or in some states, by statute. So in every state, a body of law generally called the law of agency generally defines and regulates the legal roles of this relationship. While the relationship is subject to contract law, agency law dictates how the relationship will achieve its purpose, regardless of what the listing contract states. So once we have an agreement signed with someone, a principal and an agent or a broker, that develops an agency relationship. Now, sometimes there's an implied relationship, right? It's because of the actions that we take, or we say, I'm your realtor, or you're my realtor, I'm your client. So that's implied. But a formal agency relationship between a principal and an agency and a principal and an agent is the law of agencies. That's the agency relationship. It is how it's defined. Now, not that it's an agreement, it is an agreement between a principal and an agent when the document is, no, not that one. A listing agreement, a contract, a lease agreement, that develops a relationship, an agency relationship between a broker and a principal. Who is the principal? It could be a seller, a buyer, an investor, a tenant. Okay. So again, in every state, a body of law, generally called the law of agency. So this applies to all states, all 50 states, defined and regulates the legal roles of the relationship. So the legal roles, right? Principal and the agent, that is the legal roles, and that they both have to have a specific performance, just like in a contract. Like in a contract, I mean, between a buyer and a seller, each side has to perform. Otherwise, there will be consequences, right? Okay, number 2. Which of the following is true? Oh, hold on here. Which of the following is true of the connection between compensation and the agency relationship? A, an agreement to give and receive compensation creates an agency relationship. B, if an agency relationship exists, the principal must provide valuable consideration to the agent. Remember, again, be very careful for little words like must, okay, and always and only. C, the relationship is independent of any compensation agreement. Or D, if an agency relationship exists, the agent is entitled to the compensation. So which of the following is true? to the connection between compensation and the agency relationship. Okay, an agency relationship is formed when a document is signed between the seller, the buyer, the tenant, and the broker, it's the agent. So what is your answer here? So 4.2, the answer is C, as in cat, compensation arrangement. Because so it's independent of any compensation arrangement. That's the agency relationship. Because sometimes there may not be financial compensation depending on what the broker has agreed to with the buyer or vice versa. But it's not subject to compensation to have an agency relationship. Relationship is independent of any compensation agreement. Now, listing agreements, they do specify on there a commission to be paid by the seller to the listing agent and maybe the buyer agent. Since National Association of Realtors made changes due to some lawsuits, then there are additional documents that may be required to be filled by your broker. So it is important to understand that the agency relationship does not require compensation or any form of consideration. A consideration can be a trade. Nor does compensation define an agency relationship. A party other than the principal may compensate the agent. All right, Max, nice to see you here. Number 3, one of the following parties to an agency relationship defaults and the agreement terminates. Which of the following is true? So anybody that's joining right now, we're dealing with national questions. A, all obligations are extinguished. B, both parties must continue to perform all other obligations of the agreement. C, the defaulting party may have a financial consequence. Or D, the damaged party has no claim against the defaulting party. So one of the parties of an agency relationship defaults. Remember, both parties have to have a specific performance. And the agreement terminates. Which of the following is true? A, all obligations are, both parties must continue to perform all other obligations of the agreement. Again, little words like must, okay, can help you answer a question correct or wrong. C, the defaulting party may have a financial consequence. Or D, the damaged party has no claim against the defaulting party. Answer here for 4.3. 4.3 is C as in Charlie, or cat, since I'm a cat lover. The defaulting party may have financial consequences. So involuntary termination of the relationship may create legal and financial liability for a party because they're both agreed to do performance who defaults or cancels. For example, a client may renounce an agreement, but then be held liable for the agent's commission expenses. So if the agent performed for that seller, they brought a contract that is, let's say, full price, it meets all the requirements to where a seller should accept. If they change their mind and decide not to sell, well, the realtor performed their duty of attracting a buyer. Therefore, that seller may be due, or probably is due, to pay a commission to that agent and expenses. Number 4.4. Among the fiduciaries imposed on a real estate agent is the requirement to do what? Among the fiduciary duties. So what are our fiduciary duties? Those are vocabulary imposed on a real estate agent is the requirement to A, refuse offers the agent knows will be unacceptable to the principal. B, present all offers to the principal regardless of their amount. C, advise the principal against accepting an offer below full price. Or D, advise a prospect that the principal will not accept the prospect's offer in order to elicit a better offer. Remember, our fiduciary duties are to the client that we have a written and signed agreement with, and must keep things confidential. Only in writing if the seller requires or the buyer to disclose something. Otherwise, it's all confidential. So what do you think the answer for 4.4 is? 4.4 is B. The real estate agent is required to present all offers to the principal, regardless of their amount. Now, sometimes a client, a principal, will say, don't show me any lowball offers. Well, we still need to present those offers to our principal. That is our fiduciary requirement, our fiduciary duties. And a real estate agent must present offers to a client, to a seller. And you know how it says, refuse offers the agent knows? No, we don't make decisions for our clients. C says, advise the principal against accepting an offer that's below. That is the client's decision. We can advise them of the comparables and what's currently on the market, but sometimes sellers decide, hey, you know what? I just want to accept it. I want out. I'll take that below price offer. And then D says, advise a prospect that the principal will not accept the prospect's offer. So again, that realtor cannot be saying that to a buyer, because that is releasing confidential information from a seller. If that buyer wants to present an offer that is below the listing price or way below, then it's up to the sellers to decide. So the best answer, present all offers to the principal. In this case being a seller. Remember, we're reviewing right now agency. So agency law for national. One of the agent's fiduciary duties that continues even after a listing agreement expires is A, obedience, B, diligence, C, confidentiality, or D, disclosure. All of you that are here, I invite you to participate. Type the question number and the letter answer. And if for some reason you get it wrong, hey, I will let you know. So Max, yes, you got 4.4 correct. So the answer for 4.5 is confidentiality. So after an agreement expires, our agency relationship ends. We don't owe them any obedience, diligence, or disclosures. However, confidentiality. Hey, Charlie, nice to see you here. Thanks for participating. And that answer is correct, 4.6. The standard of care and competence that a principal can expect from an agent is generally that which is, so the standard of care and competence. A, specified in the agency agreement. B, necessary to earn the promised compensation. C, necessary to procure a customer. Or D, comparable to that of other practitioners in the area. So 4.6. The standard of care and competence. Okay, from an agent. Generally that which is. Again, keep in mind that sometimes they may provide an answer that you've never seen or a question that you've never seen. So it's your responsibility to think, have common sense, and help with provide solutions and solutions and solve problems. So there are other industries, okay, that also provide standards of care and competence. So the answer here, nope, not C. Hi, Danielle. Thank you for participating. And it's not A. It is D. 4.6 is D. The standard of care and competence is comparable to that of other practitioners. It's not specified in the agency agreement. It is something that we learn and that our real estate commission expects from us, right? And also to be honest. So that's why we take courses and take exams so that we have competence and we take care on how we deal our clients and all the documents necessary to earn the promised commission. That's not the best answer. Necessary to procure a customer, not the best answer. So D, it's comparable to that of other practitioners in the area because they may not earn a compensation. So let's see what the answer says. The agent is hired to do a job and is therefore expected to do it with diligence and reasonable competence. Competence is generally defined as a standard of practice. SOP, standard of SOP, standard of practice, equal to the level of real estate marketing skills and knowledge of other practitioners in the area. So C, it says necessary to procure customers. So do we only deal, in order to care and competence, it says that a principal, one that is just looking, they have not signed an agreement, therefore they are not a principal. So the word principal would trigger you to eliminate letter C. A principal is no longer a customer. They are a client. They signed an agency relationship. B, necessary to earn the promised compensation? No, because there may not be a promised compensation. So is it specified in the agency agreement? That would be a listing agreement, a contract? No. It's something that is a standard of practice that we know and we learn when we take our classes and exams. So 4.6 is D. Do you see how a little word can help you either select the wrong answer or the right answer? So principal, customer, two separate things. We owe a standard of care and competence to a principal that can expect common agent, generally that which is comparable to that of other practitioners in the area. So it's a standard of practice, how we practice business and how we're educated. All right, number 7. So let's see here. Loyalty and faithfulness is associated with old car. No, not faithfulness. Loyalty is. You don't have to be faithful. You're dealing with obedience. Okay, so let me get the old car acronym so that you can see that. Old car acronym in real estate. So understanding the realtor relationship with the acronym of old car. So old car stands for obedience, loyalty, disclosure, right? Disclose, disclose, disclose. Confidentiality, accountability, accounting, and reasonable care. Has nothing to do with faithfulness. Old car is a good acronym to remember. Number 7, Agent Michael is showing his new listing to a buyer who informs him that he has just inherited $5 million. Nice. Michael is now bound by fiduciary duty to A, keep the information in confidence, B, disclose the information to the buyer's agent, C, disclose the information to the seller, or D, verify the buyer's statement before disclosing them to the client. Okay, let me, so the bottom of that is D, verify the buyer's statement before disclosing them to the client. So remember confidentiality, okay? Very crucial. Anything that we hear, we already know. Anything that we already know. Things that we see on the condition of properties, we do not disclose that. Agent Michael is showing his new listing to a buyer who informs him that he has just inherited $5 million. Michael is now bound by fiduciary duty to A, keep the information in confidence. B, disclose the information to the buyer's agent. C, disclose the information to the client. What do you think the answer here is for number 7? 4.7 is C. Disclose the information to the seller. Since Agent Michael has a responsibility and a fiduciary relationship with the seller, anything that a buyer that he or she does not represent, he can disclose to the seller or must disclose to the seller. Therefore, the answer is Michael is now bound by fiduciary duty for buyers not to disclose that kind of information, because when we represent another client, because our fiduciary duty representing that client is to inform them of what we hear and what we are told by another party that is not our client. Let's see here. An agent has the duty to inform the client of all material facts, condition of the property, reports like home inspection reports, well, sewer, those types of roof, and rumors that might affect the client's interest in the property transaction. This includes the agent's opinion of the property's condition, information about the buyer's motivation and financial qualification, discussions between agent and buyer regarding the possibility of agents representing the buyer in another transaction. So Michael represents a seller. So seller needs to know that buyers are approved or can purchase a home, that are, what do we call it? Ready, willing, and able. Number 8. Agent Jerry has executed an exclusive buyer-broker agreement with the Andersons. What kind of an agreement? Exclusive buyer-broker agreement with the Andersons. The agent subsequently places an offer with Melinda, the exclusive selling agent for the Lincolns, to buy their lakefront property. The offer contains provisions for the Lincolns to pay the brokerage commission. Okay, so who are the Lincolns? They're the sellers, right? So Melinda places an offer with Melinda, is the listing agent to the client, to the Lincolns. The offer contains provisions for the Lincolns to pay the brokerage commission. So the seller, right, paying the brokerage commission, which the Lincolns agreed to. Given this set of circumstances, Jerry owes the full set of duties to A, the Andersons, B, the Lincolns, C, Jerry's broker, or D, Melinda's broker. Who does Jerry represent? Who does Jerry have and execute it? Execute it means it's been signed by both parties. An exclusive buyer-broker agreement. So his fiduciary duties is to his client, Anderson's. The letter A is the answer. 4.88 is the answer. Right? He's got an executed an exclusive buyer agreement with the Andersons. He owes no responsibility to the Lincolns, as Melinda is a listing broker and the Lincolns have agreed to pay all brokerage commissions. So Jerry's broker will get paid the commission that belongs to Jerry from the Lincolns, right? Because all commission goes to the brokerage. Now, if you are a broker and you have an LLC, right, you would receive the commission directly because you're the broker. When we hang our license under a broker, then our broker gets the commission, and then we pay the expenses for error and omission, for compliance, and then the split, and then we get our split, right? Number 9, a nice, brief, short one. That's how I love them on the exam. Reading is not my best asset. Slow reader. So that's why it's important to read the questions carefully before jumping to selecting an answer, and also reading all the answers completely. So a sub-agent, vocabulary, is the agent of A, the seller, the buyer, a broker who has agency relationship with a client, or D, the client and the customer's agent. A sub-agent is the agent of the seller, the buyer, a broker who has an agency relationship with the client, or the client and the client's agents. 4.9, the answer is C. The sub-agent is the agent of the broker who has an agency relationship with a client. So let me read the answer that the book has. So in a sub-agency, a broker or licensed salesperson works as the agent of the broker, who is the agent of a client. Sub-agents might include a cooperating licensed broker that brokers licensed salespeople and the listing broker's licensed salespeople, all of whom agree to work for the listing broker on behalf of the client. So if a seller, has a listing with a broker and an agent that does not have a signed agency agreement with a buyer, the buyer does not want to be represented. However, they want this agent to write an offer. That agent becomes a sub-agent, and their fiduciary duty is to the seller that the other realtor represents, that the listing realtor represents, because the buyer does not have an agency relationship with that agent. And the seller in the listing agreement will specify whether they're paying commission for both brokers. The way the answer specifies it probably gets a little confusing. So the relationship of a sub-agent is with an agent of a broker. Okay, so they are all agents of a broker, whether they represent a seller or represent a buyer. So we're under the broker, the umbrella of a broker, who has an agency relationship with a client, which in this case would be, a listing agent. And it's not A, the seller, B, the buyer. We don't have enough detail to say that they're a sub-agent is the agent of seller or buyer, nor the clients and the customer's agent. The best answer here is the agent of the broker. If they had given us more information that, let's see, Jerry does not have an exclusive relationship with the buyer and presents an offer to Melinda in the prior question, and she is the listing agent, then Jerry becomes a sub-agent. And his duty and confidentiality is due to that seller. Okay, and the way the answer said it here, in a subagency, a broker or licensed salesperson works as the agent of the broker who is the agent of clients. Okay, so subagents might include a cooperating licensed broker. So I have a listing with my broker, and we have cooperating business with other brokers, right? So the subagent might be with another brokerage. That broker's licensed salesperson and the listing broker's licensed salesperson. So you have to read very carefully, all of whom agree to work for the listing broker on behalf of the client. So the listing broker and the subagent work on behalf of the listing client, the principal. Okay, number 10. Sounds confusing. And so something like this, you have to know your concepts, your information, know what a subagent is, and when does an agent become a subagent? No. Number 10. Which of the following is a dual agency situation? Some states have dual agency. I'm in Texas. We do not have dual agency. We can only represent one client, one principal. So which of the following is a dual agency situation? A, two agents share the exclusive right to represent the same client on all transactions. B, one agent represents both sides in a transaction. C, a selling agent from one brokerage works with a listing agent from another brokerage to complete a transaction. Or D, one agent represents two sellers at the same time. So that's vocabulary, major vocabulary. Dual agency. The answer here is B. One agent represents both sides in a transaction. When I was licensed in Oregon, we had dual agency. I could represent both sides. So I wear my seller hat, take that off. When I go see the buyer, I wear my buyer hat. Everything between both parties is kept confidential because I represent both of them. Many realtors are not comfortable doing that, and so they refer that client. If they have the listing, they refer the buyer. But some realtors have experience to working with both sides, and therefore they're going to get both commissions unless they negotiate to accept less. So in Texas, when I have a listing agreement and I have calls, I get calls from the listing. Listings have babies. That's what we call it. Listing have babies. We can get additional sellers or we can get buyers from them calling the listing. However, some of those buyers don't have realtors. And they'll say, hey, I want you to write the offer for me. And of course, our first duty is to disclose. I represent the seller and cannot represent you nor give you advice or negotiate for you. You would be representing yourself. I can write the contract. I can provide public information, comparables, and then facilitate the closing. But I cannot advise you. If you choose to have your own realtor, I will refer another realtor to represent you. And many say, no, that's okay. I want you to do it. All right. So I get double commission. Number 11. Somebody already answered. Danielle, that must be for number 11, right? The duties of a transaction broker or facilitator include A, preserving the confidentiality of information received from either party. B, helping the two parties achieve their respective objectives. C, disclosing material facts that affect the value of the property to both parties. Or D, choosing to obey the instructions of one party and informing the other party of the decision. So the duties of a transaction broker or facilitator include The answer here is C. 411 is C. Disclosing material facts that affect the value of the property to both parties. So let's see what it says here. In the role of facilitator, the broker's only fiduciary duties and standards of conduct or those of accounting, skill, care, diligence, honesty and fair dealing and disclosure to both parties of all material facts in residential sale transactions affecting the property's values. Some states do not allow for this form of relationship in a real estate transaction. So anything that we know about the property, material facts, that can in fact impact the decision that either a seller or a buyer specifies, then we must disclose either from a home inspection or visual inspection based on our experience. We're not inspectors, right? We're not home inspectors. However, we can a lot of times see certain defects on a property. So the broker's only the facilitator, the broker's only fiduciary duties and standards, okay, of conduct, standards of conducts. The other one was standards of practice, right? Hold on. Standards of conduct are those of accounting, skill, care, and diligence, honesty and fair dealing, and disclosure to both parties of all material facts in residential sale transactions affecting the property's value. And some states don't allow that. Very good, Max. Very good. Danielle, I wasn't sure which one you answered A to. Oh, did you guys answer A to number 10? Exclusive right to sell. No. When two agents cannot share the exclusive present the same client. There's only one exclusive listing agreement per client. And it would be then a dual relationship would be with the seller or with the buyer, but not two agents that have the right to represent the same client, right? We have the right to represent both parties, the seller and the buyer, not two agents represent one client. Unless you're a team, okay? And the team is representing, but it's typically the name of one client, or there's a co-agent that represents. But it is not two separate agents that have two separate exclusive rights to represent. Okay, number 12. I misread it. Yes, that's real easy to do. I do that also. I have to tell her just like I read the answer per the book versus just the answer that's on the screen. Okay, number 12. In which of the following contact situations would a seller's agent be expected to disclose his agency relationship? And for all of you here, we're discussing agency. So law of agency for all 50 states. So A, the agent is showing the client's property to a prospective buyer. Let me read the question again. In which of the following contact situations would a seller's agent be expected to disclose his agency relationships? A, the agent is showing the client's property to a prospective buyer. B, the agent tells an acquaintance at a party about the client's property. C, the agent answers questions about the client's property for a telephone caller responding to a newspaper ad. Or D, the agent is showing a potential buyer houses in a certain price range in the multiple listing book. We used to have, when I started in Oregon, multiple listing books that we would get. I can't remember if it was once a week or once a month. We didn't have a multiple listing service where we could look them up. So the answer for 412 is no, it is not D. The answer is A. The agent is showing the client's property. So the agent is representing a seller and prospective buyer. We must disclose that we represent the seller, just in case they want us to write the contract or recommend that they get their own broker to represent them, agent, or we refer one to them and get a commission referral fee. Number D says the agent is showing a potential buyer houses in a certain price range in the multiple listing book. Okay, the agent is not showing the property. Okay, they're showing potential buyer houses in a certain price range in the multiple listing book. So they're just showing multiple properties in an area. It doesn't specify. Following context, would a seller's agent be expected to disclose the agency relationship? If that agent was showing their seller's property in addition to others, then it must say, I represent the owner of this particular property and cannot represent you, but I can represent you on all the other listings. All the other properties that are in the listing book. Okay? So number 12 says, agency disclosure must occur upon substantive contact between the listing agent and a customer. Okay, a customer is not a client yet. It's a potential buyer, a prospect. Examples of substantive contact include showing the prospect a property, eliciting confidential information from a prospect regarding needs, motivation, or financial qualifications, and executing a contract offer to sell or lease. So once we talk to a customer in more detail of a particular property, then we're having a substantive contact. Got it? Number 13. The essential foundation of the agency relationship consists of A, mutual respect, compensation, and confidentiality. B, diligence, results, and compensation. C, service, marketing, and respect. D, good faith, trust, and confidence. And good faith doesn't mean faithful. Okay, and maybe that's where Max, you got confused, okay, as far as old car. Old car doesn't have an F in it, and we're not required to be faithful. So what's the answer to 413? Yes, the answer is D. Very good, Max. Good faith, trust, and confidence. Like lenders, they have to provide good faith estimates to their buyer so that the buyer can compare multiple loan officers or banks before deciding to work with one of them. Very good, Danielle. So, yes, 413 is D. I keep forgetting to show the answer, but it'll show up on 24 hours after this live ends, the live chat will appear. If you go back and try to look for the answers right now in less than 24 hours, you will not see them, the live chat. Number 14. Okay, so let's see. It says here on the prior answer, the essence of an agency relationship is trust, confidence, and mutual good faith. The principal trusts the agent to exercise the utmost skill and care in fulfilling the principal's best interest. The agent undertakes to strive in good faith to achieve the desired objective and to fulfill the fiduciary duties. More detailed answer. Number 14. Audrey wants to take a vacation. Yoo-hoo! I want to go to Costa Rica, Belize, a whole bunch of Bali, the Maldives Islands. Let's see. Audrey wants to take a vacation. To do so, she authorizes an agent to conduct the operations of one of her business enterprises. The kind of agency she has established is A, limited, B, general, C, universal, or D, special. Operations. So what kind of agency is Audrey giving to the other agent, authorizing? You have those 4 different types of agency authorizations. They're general. It's general to that one business enterprise. Universal would mean it's responsible and conducting operations of everything that Audrey has. So general, in a general agency, so the answer is 414 is B, general. In a general agency, the principal delegates to the agent ongoing tasks and duties within a particular business or enterprise. Such delegation may include the authority to enter into contracts. If you're not sure of what those 4 vocabulary terms are defined, please look them up and review the 4 different types of agency. 4 different types of agents: a limited agent, general, universal, special. Number 15. And again, I'll repeat, these questions help you learn vocabulary. And that's why it's important to study vocabulary. Number 15. A property seller empowers an agent to market and sell a property on his behalf. The kind of agency represented is A, general, B, special, C, universal, or D, no agency. So property seller empowers an agent to market and sell a property on his behalf. What type of agency is that? Yes, property manager. So hold on. The answer here is a special agent. They're dealing with one particular property. Okay, it says empowers an agent to market and sell a property, one property. So that's a special agent. Yeah, a property manager becomes a general agent. Good comment. A property is a general agent. Yes. And what else does it say? Oh, never mind. It was reading what's underneath. Got it? Any questions? I guess not. So on to number 16. Implied agent arises when A, an agent accepts an oral listing, B, a principal creates an agency relationship outside of an express agreement, or D, a principal agrees to all terms of a written listing agreement, whether express or implied. So what is an implied agency? Implied. Oh, I forgot to put B on there. Okay, so we're on number 16. I just showed number 15. So what is number 16? The answer here is C. A party creates an agency relationship outside of an express agreement. That is implied. So they don't have anything in signing. And it's not A, agent accepts an oral listing, or B, principal accepts an oral listing, because it would be the agent who accepts a listing, right? Listing with a listing agent. So a party creates an agency relationship outside of an express agreement. So number 16, an agency relationship can arise by implication, intentionally or unintentionally. Implication means that the parties act as if there were an agreement. For example, if an agent promises a buyer to do everything possible to find a property at the lowest possible price, and the buyer accepts the proposition, there may be an implied agency relationship, even though there is no specific agreement. Got it? Got it. So look up implied agency. You can Google all these terms, okay? If whenever you're studying, and instead of going back to your book, just Google it. But if in doubt, whether it's right or not, because everything makes mistakes, even AI, we have to double check. So check more than one reference. Number 17. An agency relationship may be involuntarily terminated for which of the following reasons? Okay, an agency relationship may be involuntarily terminated for which of the following reasons? So involuntarily terminated. A, condemnation of the property. B, mutual consent. C, full performance. Or D, renewal of the agent's license. So an agency relationship. So there is a signed agreement, right, between an agent and a principal. How can that be involuntarily terminated? The answer is A, condemnation of the property. An agency relationship may terminate contrary to the wishes of the parties by reason of death or incapacity of either party, abandonment by the agent, condemnation or destruction of the property, condemnation by the city for public use, right? They can condemn a property, or because property taxes are due, so the city will go and condemn the property, or it's been neglected and it's a danger to others. They could get hurt, so the city can go and condemn it. Condemnation or destruction of the property, renunciation, breach, bankruptcy, or revocation, not the renewal of an agent's license. And not full performance, has nothing to do with full performance. If there has already been full performance, that means that agency relationship ended because the property sold. And then the agency relationship ends, except for confidentiality, right? Mutual consent, it would be voluntary. Here, it is involuntarily terminated. So it's 5 ways to terminate a contract, right? Well, there may be more. Here we have The agency relationship may terminate contrary to the wishes of the party by reason of, one, death or incapacity of either party. So there's two, abandonment by the agent. There's three, condemnation or destruction of the property. Five, renunciation. Six, breach. Seven, bankruptcy. Or eight, revocation of the agent's license. So if the real estate commission canceled the realtor's license, then that contract automatically terminates. It's terminated involuntarily. If there's bankruptcy, then it's now tied to the bankruptcy court. If there's a breach by one party or the other, then it is involuntarily terminated. Destruction of the property, condemnation, which the city can do, right? Or somebody dies or is incapacitated and there isn't someone to take over them, like their trust. So there are many ways, more than 5, to terminate a contract involuntarily. Okay, keep that in mind. Wasn't voluntarily terminate. A buyer can voluntarily terminate a contract and may risk losing their earnest money. A seller may voluntarily terminate the contract with a realtor or with a buyer and consequences, right? So because there is specific performance and there are consequences that can sometimes be financial for being in default of a contract. Much to know about real estate. I'm always learning. Doing these classes helps me stay current. Like Current Matters is one magazine they say, or subscription to join Current Matters. I tell you what, you're going to be getting bombarded by different organizations, brokerages, coaches to hire them. Okay. Subscriptions, publications. Please do not start spending money on all those things. Get your feet on the ground and start prospecting. Is how you will do it without spending money. And prospecting can be making calls, calling people from Craigslist that are for sale by owners, for sale by owner websites, calling all those people, right? They have to have their phone number on their door, knocking, sending out expired letters or for sale by owner letters. Those don't cost you anything, but, well, I shouldn't say that. They cost your time, maybe stamps and envelopes and printing if you send out letters. But calling, basically, the expense is your time. And could be your cell phone if you don't have a unlimited usage of your phone. So it's important to keep track of all the individuals that are going to try to get your money to help you succeed in this business, because it takes a lot to succeed. Now I think the percentage has gone up to almost 90% of beginners drop out of real estate within the first year. That's a high percentage. I'm glad I'm in the top 10%. So 418. But I have to say, I was really nervous about getting into commission type of job. I had other types of commission-based or flat fees types of jobs. But after being an engineer and getting a nice paycheck every 2 weeks, that was real comforting, right? And something we get every 2 weeks. With commission, we're not sure when the next check is coming unless we are very aggressive, assertive, and prospecting and have lots of listings and buyers. Number 18, a principal discloses that she would sell a property for $500,000. So who? A principal. Who is the principal? A seller, a client. During the listing period, What period? Listing period. Means they have an agreement signed. The house is listed and marketed for $530,000. No offers come in and the listing expires, right? Because the listing has a start date and an end date. 3 weeks later, the agent confides to a customer that the seller would have sold for less than the list. The agent, assuming that agent is the principal's listing agent, confides to a customer that the seller would have sold for less than the listed price. What of the following is true? A, the agent has violated the duty of confidentiality. B, the agent has fulfilled all fiduciary duties since the listing has expired. C, the agent is violating the duties owed this customer. Or D, the agent has created a dual agency situation with a customer. So the new buyer is a customer, right? And they're confiding with what they knew about the seller when they represented them, right? So there's one thing that continues on after a listing or an agency relationship ends. What is that one thing? The answer is A, has violated the duty of confidentiality. The price that the seller was willing to sell for was $500,000. That was said in confidence to the realtor during the listing agreement. That must be kept confidential. Very good, Danielle. 418 is A. Okay, let's see what Max is. Cold calling effective with expired listings? Yes. Yes, because they are expired. Not on withdrawn, because withdrawn, I think in most states means there is still a legal agency relationship with that seller and that agent. However, they withdrew it from the market temporarily and then put it back. So we cannot approach listings that are withdrawn. You check with your broker or with your state. Okay. In Texas, we cannot because there is still a signed agreement. Expired listing means it was listed for 6 months or 3 months and it expired. It's game for anyone else. And that's what lead generating systems, like I use Vulcan 7, we get expired listings every day that we can call. When we have a membership or subscription to something like that, we get phone numbers. Not all phone numbers are accurate. Many are not because that property was connected maybe to somebody else in the past or a tenant. However, we call all the numbers. One of those numbers may be the real number. And then there are do not list, do not call numbers. Some realtors still call them. I do not, because client can complain and we can be fined. So if you're willing to take the risk, you can do it. I prefer not to. So yes, the answer was 418A, the duty of confidentiality. So let's see what it's, any information that would harm the client's interest of bargaining position. Because let's say that realtor might get that listing back, right? And now they've told buyers what that seller is willing to sell for. And even when we have a contract, our duty is to keep that contract offer price confidential. You may notice some realtors will disclose the offer price. That is confidential information. Everybody does business differently. I follow the rules, follow the laws, honest, diligent, and keep yourself out of trouble. So I do that as on a daily job, cold calling. Oh, okay, so you're an expired listing assistant or cold calling assistant, virtual assistant, something like that, where a license is not required because you're just calling to set appointments for realtors. Well, once you get your license, you'll be able to do it for yourself. Yes, appointment setter, correct. And an unlicensed person can do that. A principal instructs, who's the principal? The seller, only to families on the west side of the university campus. The agent refuses to comply. In this case, A, the agent has violated fiduciary duty. B, the agent has not violated fiduciary duty. C, the agent is liable for breaching the listing terms. Or D, the agent should obey the instruction to salvage the listing. So a principal instructs an agent to market a property. So they're a principal means there's already an agency relationship. Otherwise, they would be a customer. Okay? So whenever you see the principal, there is an agency relationship. So the agent to market the property, but only to west side of the. So the answer for 419 is B. That agent has not violated fiduciary duty. We cannot discriminate and be selective on a certain area. And if that client persists, we can terminate the agreement. 419, B as in boy. They have not violated. So remember, when you read questions, a principal means they already have an agency relationship. They have an agreement signed. They're not a customer. So we owe fiduciary duty, not certain fiduciary duties. And we cannot be selective of where we're going to market the property. Anytime we market a property with an MLS, it is syndicated to many, many, many websites, including international. It goes all over the world. So 20. An owner's agent is showing a buyer a residential property for sale. The buyer, okay, is there a listing agreement? The buyer notices water stains on the foundation, walls, and floor and informs the agent. The appropriate course of action for the agent is A, immediately contract to paint the ceiling. B, immediately contract to repair the roof. C, suggest the buyer make a lower offer. Or D, inform the seller. What is the owner's agent being told? So an owner's agent is showing a buyer a residential property for sale. The buyer notices the water stains on the foundation, walls, and floor and informs the agent. Maybe the agent didn't see him, or maybe the owner didn't disclose. The appropriate course of action is for the agent to seller. Anything that we learn that will impact a decision making on that property for the sale or purchase needs to be disclosed. And the buyer informed the agent, and they must disclose to the seller. So that was number 20D. So let's see what else it says here. An agent has a duty to inform the client of all material facts, reports, and rumors that might affect the client's interest in the property and transaction. Because property conditions impact what the buyer wants to offer, right? And impact the seller because they may have to make repairs, or they're selling at is and concession for that repair. Number 21, the meaning and salient characteristics of the agency relationship should be disclosed to the client. A, prior to completing a listing agreement. B, prior to or upon completion of an offer. C, upon the initial contact with the person. Or D, prior to showing properties. The meaning and salient characteristics of the agency relationship should be disclosed to a client when? All right, somebody says D. Danielle, that must be for number 20. Yeah, there's a delay on YouTube. So you were right. 420, the answer was D. So 421 is A. Prior to completing a listing agreement. So an agent who intends to represent a seller or owner must disclose the import of the proposed agency listing agreement is executed. And that's the information about brokerage services, right? On how representation works, brokers, sales agent representing the buyer, sales agent representing the seller, and dual agency and intermediary relationship. So that's in the information about brokerage services that we must disclose. That is a must to any customer, seller, buyer that we're going to represent or that we start discussing properties with. Some states now require in your brokerage to have a buyer-tenant representation agreement the moment we talk with buyers and show them properties. So prior to completing a listing agreement, we must show the information about brokerage relationships. So that is the disclose the importance of the proposal, and that's discussed in the information about brokerage relationships, and they initial that. Our name and email are already on that agreement, and our brokers, so that the buyer or seller can contact the brokerage, and phone numbers. Okay, any questions? That's our 21 questions for tonight. And this was test number 4. Agency. Where? So agency, the law of agency relationships is what is discussed in section 4. We will continue on that hopefully tomorrow, Wednesday. Okay, any questions? I don't see any questions. So thank you all for attending tonight, and I hope that this session on agency and listings, that we just started a little bit on, no, actually we basically did agency relationship, helps you in preparing for your exam. And it pointed out many vocabulary words that you should know in order to help you better answer questions on the real exam. The real exam will be tougher. Sometimes you may see some of these exact questions on the exam, but rarely. They're usually harder, and I recommend what I've learned through prep books is to skip the first 5 questions, because a lot of times they are the most difficult. Flag those to come back to them later after you go through all the questions on your particular test, if it's the national test or the state test. Some states combine both. And then go back. A future question could help you answer a prior question correctly. Only then change an answer. Always go with your gut feeling, your intuition on the first answer, because changing it may cause you to get wrong. So it's important. Do you think we really have to read all the books given? Well, you probably already read them in order to get credit for each of the courses that you took, right? Because you do have to read the books or read the questions at the end so that you can pass the test before you're allowed to get a certificate that you completed that course. It depends on how you go about studying. On the prep book, I would say, no, it's up to you. You don't have to read the whole book. I recommend that you learn the vocabulary, and every day learn a few vocabulary and do all the questions. And if you miss some, go back and retake the same test until you score 100. Okay. Yeah, I understood that you meant read. So I signed up at Champions and failed 2 times. Oh, you have failed. What state are you in? You have failed the state and national exam? Because state, I think Champion is in multiple states. What state are you in? So in Texas, if you failed 3 times, you've got to go back and redo two courses that you already did. Texas, yes, okay. And so on those 2 exams that you took, I recommend that you seriously review the questions that you missed the most percentage of and go back and study questions on those. Now, it doesn't tell you which ones you missed, but it tells you which concepts or which education and topics you missed the most questions. Then I would go back and review questions dealing with that material. It is very difficult, the math questions. Oh, yeah. So we just went over 4 series, a series of 4 videos going over all the math concepts. So it's under the playlist 2026 math series. There are 4 videos, and I went through, you're going to see here, basic math on the left-hand side, basic math, leases, contracts, appraisal, finance, investment, taxation, commissions, closing costs, proration, insurance coverage. So I reviewed all that in 4 different videos that are in the playlist 2026 math series. And it's reviewing all the information, the formulas, how you can solve one formula 3 different ways, because you're maybe solving for 3 different factors, how to go back and check. And yes, if you don't like math, it can be very difficult. However, even individuals who like math, it can still be very difficult. Who is Texas test administrators, for example, Pearson View? What's Champion? Champion is a school. Pearson View is an examiner. Okay, but there are books that are sold, prep books, that follow the Pearson View type of questions. Yeah, Champion has classes for all the courses that you have to take, right? 180 hours, that's 6 different courses. And they also have prep classes, and you go in person or you can do them online. Okay, I signed up for to follow you, so I will study 2 months, then try again. Thanks for your time. You're very welcome. Yes, review all the math. Review a lot of the questions. Okay, I've gone through all the Texas questions combined on videos with national and Texas. Sometimes I do Texas by itself. And I lived 26. I didn't do much in 2025. So all of those have the updated Texas state laws that have changed since the NAR lawsuit happened in 2024. So the book that I use is an excellent book. This right here, it's for all 50 states on the national. And then it deals with Texas questions for the state exam. So if you failed both, PSI is an examiner. And I think I did PSI when I was in Oregon. And when I came here to Texas, I think PSI was still doing it. Then it changed to Pearson View. So they are similar questions. Okay, there are questions to test your knowledge of solving problems, finding solutions, thinking, common sense and see if you remember what you learned. You may get questions that you've never seen before and didn't study. They're testing your knowledge of the material that you learned. And think. If you don't know, guess. Don't skip any answer without answering it because you might guess it correctly. Sometimes a series of questions, let's say there might be 2 or 3 questions that have the same letter answer, B, B, and B. Sometimes the prep test authors say choose B. Or if you see C, B, B, C, C, choose C. So they have a little evaluate on how you can answer certain questions. Yeah, you see this book for Texas is Pearson VUE. That's the examiner. But in North Dakota, then you're dealing with PSI, which I've dealt with PSI. Okay, so do not cram the night before. I used to do that. It's not a good idea. You get nervous when you get to the exam. Study every day, little review, vocabulary. Repeat the questions on your prep book, whether it's with Champion, this book, or others. There are many different types of prep books online. I like the ones that explain the answer, not just give a letter answer. This book gives explanation of the answers. Yes, I am familiar with that, Max. March 7th is coming up pretty soon. All right, if no other comments, we will continue this section, test number 4, national, which deals with agency and listing agreements. We'll continue that and finish that tomorrow because there's, I think, 42 questions in that particular test. Okay, if no further oh, I should have shared the screen. I didn't. Sorry, I was doing some things. Okay, so we'll continue with this tomorrow. Agency listing agreement. There's another 21 questions on there. The rest of the test, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. You know, I don't do one whole test and one session. I could. We would go maybe 2 hours, which I have done that. When I started doing this in 2014, not on YouTube, I was doing it in person and then on Facebook. Oh man, when the ones that I have that are on Facebook were terrible. But I had a lot of views back then. So doing it on YouTube is great because I get to see your comments and they're there forever on the YouTube channel and you can review them. I do have older videos. Just keep in mind that if you review the state for Texas, some of the questions will be outdated, but that means you're studying additional questions. Just realize that some of those maybe will be outdated. The national questions, they don't change much. Maybe something added for agency law or things like that. But it's when it comes to contract law for Texas. Okay, we've been here an hour and a half. I thank you so much for attending. I appreciate your presence, and I love the fact that several of you participated today. So keep coming, keep doing these. If this is the first time to my channel, I'd ask you to tap the like button and subscribe. And then because I am going to be creating additional videos that are when you start the business, not just for prepping, but when you start the business or you're already in the business of real estate to help you grow the business. I've been in real estate in 3 different markets since 2001, even though I was an engineer and I kept going to engineering. I started doing it full time in 2005 5 years in Oregon, 5 years in Southern Texas, and now here in San Antonio. So lots of practice of a lot of different types of transactions, very few commercial. I have focused on residential land, lots, and been an investor. Okay. So again, thank you so much. I see you next time. Have an awesome evening and tap the little bell so you get alerted anytime I go live. Catch y'all later. Love ya. Bye.